This is a monumental moment for Shigaraki and My Hero Academia as a series. This chapter effectively concludes the Meta Liberation Army versus the League of Villains, if you can really call Shigaraki's group that anymore. Because when you think about it, Shigaraki is no longer bound by titles, bound by his past, bound by his sensei. He's no longer bound by anything. He is the embodiment of freedom. Even if he is the symbol of despair, the only thing that really has to despair when it comes to Shigaraki is restrictions, things that bound you down and not allow you to move how you freely want. Shigaraki is literally the symbol of freedom in a way. And it's kind of interesting to see where his character is going to go from this point onward, because with him now being who he is, now controlling the Meta Liberation Army, and him now being the freest person that Destro has ever seen, the question is, what is next? I mean, besides Sushi Night, obviously. Jokes aside, though, I think that this is just such an amazing moment. This is a moment to remember, because this is the origin, or the main start, to Shigaraki being the final villain. We've had all this characterization and development for a long time, since his introduction in the early stages of My Hero Academia. And finally, we got a villain that can really stand toe-to-toe with maybe even All Might himself. That is truly how scary he is at this moment. And I will get into that. I'm going to talk about that in this video. But the point I want to talk about is Destro and his decision, how it's good for the story, why it happened, etc., etc. So first thing I want to confront when it comes to Destro kind of being on Shigaraki's side now is that this means that we are not going to have Destro as a one-shot villain. This is the biggest flaw I think many had with My Hero Academia, or people were really upset with when it came to this story, is that Horikoshi, when he designs characters or villains, usually they're breathtaking. They're absolutely insanely designed, where you're just like, I want more of them. High-End, for instance, everybody loved High-End's design. When it came to Overhaul, his design, amazing. When it comes to Stain, his design, it's simplistic but also amazing. And there's been a lot of villains throughout this story that's kind of been mainly there for one arc and then they're kind of gone. And it's good to see that someone like Destro isn't necessarily going to be a one-shot villain. He is going to be around for a long while because Shigaraki spared him. You can clearly see from the ending conclusion of this chapter that Shigaraki spared him. He's like, you have a lot of money to burn, right? And jokes aside with Sushi Night or whatever, that means that Destro is going to be around. So we're going to get to see more of his character development and characterization. So this is overall amazing. For anyone that was worried if Destro was just going to be only for this arc and that was it, here you go. You have confirmation now that he is going to be around. So this is overall good news for those type of individuals that were very concerned. I was even concerned because I do like Destro. I liked his introduction. I loved the design. I loved what he stood for. I wanted more of him. And so I'm glad to see him sticking around with the story and now going to be on Shigaraki's side. And it makes a lot of sense too, because once again, there's two sides to this story. You have Izuku on his path to become the #1 hero, and on his journey, like a typical shonen MC, they gain friends along the way that helps them out and has the same goal, or, you know, they just become a support character that wants to help the MC reach their goal. That is something that constantly happens in shonen, not just My Hero Academia. And when it comes to the villain side, Horikoshi has taken a different approach than the normal villain approach. He's wanted to give them characterization and development to make them very similar to shonen protagonist characters. And you see Shigaraki's development, how he's inspiring people to follow him and help him on his path, and we're getting connected with these characters and understanding their motives. So when we finally have the final confrontation at the end of the story, we'll have emotions for both sides. We'll have emotions for the hero side and the villain side. Because imagine this, okay? Now that Destro is spared, okay? And we're going to progress the story now, regardless of how long it's going to last. Time we finally get to the final conclusion, where the fight's finally happening. Izuku versus Shigaraki. When that's finally going down, obviously there's going to be fights before that, or ongoing at that time with, let's say, Toga, Twice, Mr. Compress, etc. Fights like that's going to be happening, unless they're already defeated in the story before that happens, and it's very similar to what All Might did to All For One, which I will talk about in a second. But the point is that there's a likely possibility that when we finally have those confrontations later on in the story, let's say Destro goes up against someone in Hero Society, a big person, that would be crazy, because we understand Destro, why he chose to follow Shigaraki, why he's fighting for him, etc., and many will grow to love both sides. So I like that. But getting into what I said about how it's possible Izuku could go down the route of what All Might did, we gotta think about what All Might did to All For One. Remember what All For One said to All Might. Did you take pleasure in destroying my friends, my comrades, to reach your #1 status, the pillar of society, the symbol of peace? And it makes sense, really, because when you think about it, what we're seeing Shigaraki do is kind of similar to what All For One did. He built a society of villains, people that he could call his comrades. Even if he manipulated them to do his bidding, he still looked at them kind of maybe like friends. Maybe not what true traditional friends are, but he looked at them like friends. And when All Might crushed them, destroyed them, etc., you know, that's kind of what's probably going to happen to Shigaraki. His friends are going to be crushed, pushed down, for our heroes can move up in society and be praised. So that's the point here, is that we're probably going to see something very similar in that regard to what All Might did to All For One's group. But okay, now enough with that. Let's talk about the Destro, why he bowed down to Shigaraki. So Destro, I think many, if you have been really paying attention to these latest chapters, especially with Destro losing stress to him looking at Shigaraki and kind of respecting him or admiring him and just realizing how free he is, I think everybody saw this conclusion before it happened. Before this chapter came out, I think anyone that read the last chapter pretty much knew that this was probably going to happen. I even talked about it in my last chapter review, that it was very likely that Destro might bow down to Shigaraki, even if he's killed, the Liberation Army might follow him, because the Liberation Army kind of believes in freedom and liberation, and that's kind of what Shigaraki represents at this time. He completely destroys everything. He doesn't just destroy, let's say, people. He doesn't destroy just buildings, but he destroys the very status symbol and meaning of things that we create within a society. And that's kind of what Destro was talking about, is that he is literally free from everything, because he has destroyed all chains that attach him to this modern world. He's no longer bound by anything, and that is why he respected him. And so you gotta imagine someone that had an upbringing like Destro to be this beacon, to be this like pillar for society, to bring liberation to everyone, to where you can have rights to use your quirk in any way possible. Obviously, if you saw an individual that was using his rights in any way possible, but taking it a step further and doing anything he could to just build the society he wants, obviously, he would start to respect the man. He realized that the man was the very thing he wanted to be, but better, that he could never be in the first place. And we gotta look at the flashback we got briefly with Destro in the last chapter. In the last chapter, we saw Destro at a young age being told he has to be this, he has to do this, he has to be this. And that was his entire upbringing, and then people obviously joined his side, they were indoctrinated to follow him, etc. We know this. That's what the entire city is about. And so when you think about it, Destro's had a lot of pressure put on him, on his shoulders, which he talks about the reason why he has hair loss is because of the stress. And so with him now being kind of free from the status of Destro, he can now fully be liberated. He has truly been liberated as a person, and he can now follow Shigaraki and achieve what he really wants to achieve through him. And so I think that is a beautiful, beautiful moment for his character, because it shows now why Shigaraki is so scary. People that have the same motive, that wants to achieve their goals, but they don't want to be bound by the stress to be able to achieve it, can look through Shigaraki to achieve certain set goals. So, yeah. Destro joining him makes perfect sense, I personally believe. I know many might be upset that it wasn't like a straight-up slaughter and he didn't die, but I think it fits more along the lines of keeping villains around, because them working together to build a society makes just as much sense as heroes working together to build the society they want. So, okay. Now with that out of the way, thanks to Destro now joining forces and giving everything over to the Liberation, or giving everything from the Liberation Army over to Shigaraki, the point is now, what is the Liberation Army going to do? Obviously, they will follow Destro. They will give up their lives regardless. That has been stated already. But the question is, will they follow someone like Shigaraki? after everything that's happened within this arc? That is the major question. And I'm willing to bet there will be probably some issues, but I do believe that overall it will be a easy integration into Shigaraki's villain group. I don't think it's going to be smooth, but it's not going to be, that bad. Don't think it's going to be relatively that big of a problem once they realize that Destro is backing this man. And then on top of that as well, with him now owning that force, that means he owns over 116,000 individuals a part of his army. That is not including twice in his clone duplication. That's not even including that. So Shigaraki has a massive army. His army is just insane. If Shigaraki really wanted to, he could cause some massive devastation to the entire world right now. That's how scary he is. And I do want to talk about his danger, his threat level later on. So, anyways, going one step further though, we also gotta look at Shigaraki's quirk usage, what he did to himself. Now, it's very easy to miss, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the panels. It's possible. But if you look very closely at the beginning stage of this chapter to the late stage of this chapter, Shigaraki looks a hell of a lot more damaged than he did at the beginning. He's already damaged, obviously. His fingers messed up, his arm was messed up clearly after the fight, his legs messed up. But when you look at the cracks on his face, you notice cracks start to form on his face from his mouth, which at first it seems like it's a part of his character. We've seen like these cracks before, but you notice it really starts to grow as he continues to use his power, which represents that there's probably a repercussion. See, this is something that My Hero Academia has always had. When it comes to anyone with abilities, usually there is a drawback. We've seen this. And it seems like Shigaraki's drawback is that he's not necessarily free from his destructive capabilities. Because with his face slowly starting to crack, that means that he couldn't necessarily injure himself if he continues to use his power. So we have a weakness, but the question is how far does this damage necessarily go, and how much does he need to do before it's actually, fatal. And this is not even coming into the conclusion if he gets all for one that can help him, but like I said, I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, we can see clearly that he potentially has a weakness if he continues to overexert himself with his quirk. It's a common thing we see with a lot of characters. Okay, now anyways, let's just talk about what he has now at his disposal. So, Shigaraki's threat potential right now. His power, his level right now in terms of everything we've seen in the story, he's definitely one of the highest. He's in the realm of Gigan, All for One, and All Might at this point. And the man doesn't even have multiple quirks, just one quirk. And to be fair though, there's a lot of individuals probably in Hero Society that can do just as much damage, but obviously they restrain themselves because they don't have freedom like Shigaraki does, so to say. That's kind of the whole point of Shigaraki's character. But Shigaraki is capable of leveling an entire city with just putting his hand on the ground. That is absolutely terrifying. Because we saw what All Might and All for One were capable of, what they could do. We saw what they did to a city, and it was scary. It was an incredible feat of power we saw from both of those monsters. Then we saw Gigan, and how he leveled a mountain. He just destroyed a mountain like nothing, and he's probably capable of even more. So, at this point in time, in terms of damage we have personally seen, at least in the manga for us to see, Shigaraki has done the most damage. Clearly, he has done the most damage, which just already puts him on a scary level. Because at this time, I don't think, I don't think Izuku is capable of stopping what Shigaraki is. There's no way. There's just no way he is capable of fighting someone like him right now. There's just so many reasons why he can't, and I'm gonna get into it. See, with Shigaraki's new upgrade, what he's capable of, what he has done, what his status means, what he has backing him, it puts him in a realm to where, even if Endeavor was to go up against them, and let's say Hawks wasn't like a mole or like a spy, whatever, and he was working with Endeavor, truly trying to take them down, and let's say Best Jeanist, all the top heroes, I don't think any of the top heroes could bring down Shigaraki and his group. I just don't. The only one that would be able to stand a chance toe-to-toe with Shigaraki just alone would be Aizawa. because he's able to stop his quirk. That he is the only individual I think that could fight Shigaraki. But if somehow Aizawa's not there, or he can have a straight up one-on-one with him, he's not going to be effective. So, at this time, I don't think any of the top heroes or any of the pro heroes from at least what we have seen could fight him and stop him. There's just nothing. I don't see any way how they could do that at all, because of what he has backing him now. It's not just his power, his quirk, okay? It's his charisma and his symbol, his icon now. He inspires people. People are rallying to him and joining him. Destro's entire group just joined him. So now he has an entire city, 100,000 plus people backing him on his side. And it's not just including civilians, not just including Destro's top officials, it's including heroes a part of the system. It's including police force. It's including regular average Joe jobs like technicians, etc. It's scary. He has a lot of people backing him now in this society that can really get him anything he wants. And he has money to back him too now, thanks to Destro's corporation. To take it another step further, he has Gigan. Gigan is perfectly capable of leveling an entire city by himself if he chooses to. So that's scary. Then we have Twice, with his duplications. We know that's effectively endless. Toga is able to literally turn into someone and use their quirk, and so if Twice works with her, makes multiple copies of her, and then she turns into other people, you could have your own hero army through Toga, which, that's even more frightening. Then you have Dabi, which is potentially capable, if he is the child of Endeavor, he's potentially capable of doing the exact same move that Endeavor's capable of. And we saw how deadly Endeavor's top ability is. Then we have Ice Boy. We have Ice Boy that was fighting Dabi. That's also insane. And so, someone like Todoroki that uses ice probably wouldn't be able to fight him, because he can manipulate all ice. Then, we also have the stuff with the politician. The politician that is a part of Destro's group can get inside a society and really control a large amount of people thanks to his policies. So there's so many things now that is working against Hero Society that there's just they're too deep now. They're too deep in the system that you really just cannot get rid of them without a massive purge. And it's going to take a long time. That's just how deeply integrated this problem is now, and how getting rid of Shigaraki is not that easy. Now, okay. Another thing, too, is, can Izuku fight him? Well, like I said, let's just say Izuku was fighting a 1v1, okay? Let's just look at it from a 1v1 standpoint. Let's not look at anything from outside obstacles. Let's not look at anyone from Izuku's side or from Shigaraki's side. Let's just say if they were to go 1v1 against each other. At this time, I don't think Izuku can win. I don't. Because even if he uses Black Whip that we've seen him capable of, Shigaraki can just destroy it, and nothing. And yes, we know Izuku has range attacks, but once again, Shigaraki, he can just touch it, destroy it. So, you can't use range attacks against this man. So, Izuku would have to go in and attack this man. But this is bad, because what we've clearly seen from this chapter, or this arc, is that Shigaraki has an AoE. And so when you are in his radius and you touch anything that is being disintegrated, destroyed, it will start to destroy you. That's what happened to Destro. So, if he's to get close to him, he will die. His hands and legs will just start to crumble and die. He cannot fight Shigaraki. It's like hitting someone that is just lava. It's hitting lava. That's what he is. So, regardless of how much strength you have, if you start to hit someone and then you start to disintegrate, it's over. So the only thing that can really combat him is if Izuku has insane speed, which we know he's capable of, but even then, it's a stretch to see if he could really outmatch the AoE of his attack of Shigaraki's. But also, Izuku needs regen. He needs the ability to heal himself. That is something that he definitely needs at this time. Because there is no other way he will be able to take someone like him down without regen. Because just one punch alone will destroy his entire arm, or his body. He'll have to do what Destro did. And so, if he has the ability to regen, to where soon as his arm starts to crumble, it counters and he starts to heal himself and it comes back, then that is when he could be able to fight him. If he has a regen quirk a part of One for All that's dormant, then yes, he stands a chance. But at this time, no. He is so far down on the totem pole compared to him that it is insane. And on top of that, let's just throw in the only counter that Shigaraki technically has at this time, besides Aizawa, and that is Eri. It's something I've been neglecting to mention, actually, throughout this entire chapter review, and for a while, but she is definitely the biggest counter to Shigaraki. She could theoretically reverse all of the destruction that he creates. So, if Eri's, let's say, the backpack lolly on Izuku's back while he's fighting him, then he could technically negate all damage. The question is, though, will Horikoshi go that path? I mean, he obviously has something useful for Eri. Eri's definitely going to be used for something in the story. There's something definitely big about her character for her to be around like this. But the question is, though, for what purpose? You know, there's been a lot of theories that's been out there. I've talked about myself. I mean, there's theories that maybe the villain society, like, you know, Shigaraki's group would have, you know, grabbed Eri, abducted her, and then used her for their own purposes. Or you have it to where they would get rid of Eri because she's a big threat. Or, you know, there's a lot of things. Or she would be used to counter Shigaraki and help Izuku out to be like a medic or something. There's a lot of things that Eri could be capable of. Even maybe capable of removing the Quirk gene. Possible. So, the thing here is that Eri is someone that is going to hold huge significance to the future of this story, especially with Shigaraki's new capabilities. And if Shigaraki finds out about her and what she's capable of, I can see him going out of his way to get rid of her. And if he gets rid of her, imagine how Izuku would react. Izuku might go into a blood frenzy like All Might. We know how All Might went. You remember what he said about himself, is that when he found out what happened to his sensei, his teacher, he went after All for One, and he hit that man so hard he wanted to kill him. And that was not something heroes do. What if Eri was to die before, you know, Izuku? Think about how he would react. So there's a lot of things in place here that is setting up Shigaraki as a villain, but also Eri's potential future, and how Izuku is going to fight him. So if Izuku doesn't have a regen quirk, let's say he never gets one, Eri's going to have to be there. Eri will have to be a part of the fight for him to fight. That's the only way. So anything else to really talk about? Don't think so. I think I've covered everything that needs to be covered. The only thing that's really left at this time is that Mr. Compress sadly didn't get much development, but I do think that we'll probably get more of him when we get the Prison Break arc, because that is inevitable. It's going to happen, and especially with this large force he has, that's probably going to happen very soon. So we'll see where it goes. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.